everyone, welcome to Candid Conversations with Candy Karaoke. Thank you so much for tuning in for yet another episode of Candid Conversations, and thank you for following, thank you for subscribing, thank you for dropping a comment down there, and I really appreciate the overwhelming love, the feedback. This means a lot to me, guys. This is absolutely amazing, and I'm really grateful. So for anyone who is just tuning in for the very first time today, karibu sana. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make this your family. Thank you for following through. We really appreciate, and it's my open prayer that you will be blessed. And I have been sharing a series of my testimonies. I shared the first part of the testimony, the second part of the testimony, and the third part of the testimony. And just in case you didn't listen in through the 3 segments of the testimony, please go back and listen through. And I pray that the testimonies will minister to you and God will be glorified through your life. So just a kind reminder, please, if you've been blessed by this series of testimonies and experiences that I have shared in this channel, please remember to share with your friends so that they also get to be blessed as you are. So today I would like to share a very personal story of my life. I have realized that whenever I talk about it, I am reminded of God's faithfulness through all the seasons of life. You know, God is not only faithful when things go our way. God is not faithful if things happen the way we have desired. God remains to be faithful through all situations, through all circumstances. And I'm in a position to talk about it right now because I overcame by His help. I no longer think about it in a sad way. I don't think about it in a defeated way. I have overcome, and I have healed, and I have moved on. That's why I have the confidence of sharing this, just to relate with someone who is going through such a situation or such a circumstance in their life. And you know, sometimes when we are going through challenges, there's this tendency of just thinking that it's just happening to me. And you fail to realize that whatever you're going through is common. Even the Bible says it's common to all men. There is no circumstances or a situation that you go through that is unique. Yeah? And this is the reason to why I've decided to share this story. This is something I don't like talking about, but I intentionally purposed that I have to talk about it on this platform for such a person who can relate or who could be going through this. So the reason why I feel it's very important for you to go back and listen through the testimonies is also this is kind of a flow of what happened thereafter, after the triumphs, after the victories. You know, devil is a liar and is forever defeated. He's never happy when things happen and you're going up the ladder, and he is very crafty, and he is very deceptive. And the moment I had reached at a stage where I would say my career was budding and was blossoming, something that was really unexpected happened to me. And just to go back a little bit for the sake of just connecting through the story, now I left it at, I had moved to the teaching department of the university. I am now doing what I love to do. God has changed my story and transformed it and turned around the situation. And I was likening the situation like that of Joseph. You know, 1 minute he is a prisoner, and another season he is the prime minister. And that was my situation also. And like an year later, after I joined the teaching department, and I was doing what I was really passionate about, and I was just loving my work. I was just getting used to the new environment, workspace, all complete workspace and environment, adjusting through the challenges. And at this point, I'd already gotten married to my husband, and so we were expecting our firstborn son. And I remember I was trying to juggle in between being a new mom and the period of expecting the baby, and that is the time I was also adapting in the new workspace. And I remember I used to do it so well. God graced me immensely that I never missed any of my classes. I never missed any of the activities that was required for me to do. So I finished the entire pregnancy season, and I proceeded for my maternity leave. And I remember shortly before I went for maternity leave, I had supervised my exams, marked them, awarded marks to my students, submitted all the results, and I was feeling that just God worked out everything so that it was just perfect for me to proceed for maternity leave after I was done with what was expected of me that trimester. So when I started off my maternity leave, and just to mention for the sake of those people who are new here, we were working in the same environment or institution with my husband. It's only that we were working in two different departments. He was in the finance department and I was in the academic section. So when my husband could come back home after work, you'd come and tell me that there are rumors that are going around that the university is experiencing financial issues and troubles, and they are considering laying off people. And I didn't really pay attention to this story because I knew that God would not let that happen to me. I didn't even pay attention to it, but he kept telling me over and over again that the rumors are going round, the list is already out, and people are just anxious. People were not certain of what is going to happen to them, and he kept telling me how it felt weird to be at work because the tension was too much. So we prayed about it, and we asked God that His will should be done in our lives, and we left it at that point. And I ran through my maternity leave, that is for the 3 months, and it was time to go back to work. At that point, our baby was 3 months old, so I went back to work. And on going back to work, the environment was not like I had left. There was too much tension. There was a lot of anxiety around. You would meet people through the corridors who were stressed up. People are just demotivated to work. I know someone who is watching this and has ever gone through such a thing can relate to what I'm saying. Having that sort of environment was not the best way to be received back at work. But we decided to take a day at a time with my husband. We would pray and ask God to let His will be done in our lives. And we just decided to take a day at a time. And after like a month or so after I'd gone back to work, I remember one of my colleagues came and told me that she has information that the letters are going to be dispatched the following week for the people that will be affected by the layoff. And just as usual, I used to just brush off the information and quickly shift my attention to God, who had started a good work in me, will bring it to accomplishment. And I remember in between that duration, God also opened another door for me to work as an external auditor in another organization. And I went through the interview process, and the opportunity came my way, and God blessed me in that capacity as well. And so this job was not like a full-time engagement, really. It was a part-time job. So for me, it was a blessing, and I thanked God for the blessing that came along with a new baby. And so that following week came, and I remember it was a Wednesday morning, and I received a call from one of my colleagues, and she's like, "Have you checked your email? I hear that emails have been sent out to people who have been affected by the layoff." And I'm like, "Oh no, I've not checked mine. I didn't know." But I was, let me just check. And I went straight to my email, and the first thing that popped up was a letter from the HR department. So the letter is here. At that point, I was just scared. I don't know, it was a mix of emotions. I didn't know what to do. I didn't even want to read what the letter was all about. And I remember I called my husband and told him, "Come and see." And even before we opened mine, we checked his email. Fortunately, it was not affected by the layoff. And we were getting ready to go to work, so we had to take a moment and think through the news that had come our way. At that point, I think my mind just went blank for a moment. I didn't know how to react. I don't know whether to scream, to cry, to shout. I just felt like the whole world had come down, crumbling, literally, like. And the first question that came through my mind was, where was God when all this was happening? I mean, He has not brought me this far to leave me at this point. It didn't really add up to me. I remember I was just feeling lost. I was just feeling confused. I didn't know how to digest this heavy information. I was feeling like, I don't know, I'm not even sure what the next move should be like. And for a moment, we just stayed without even talking to each other just to digest and to try to absorb. And at some point, it was looking like I'm daydreaming. Like I had to pinch myself to just be sure that I was right, that what I had seen is true. And from that moment on, I think when the information sank deep into me, I was just crying. I just broke down. I was just crying. I was asking God questions over questions. I was just feeling empty, lost. Nothing was making sense at that point. I was at the very budding stage of my career. And this is something that I had gone through a journey to reach to. It's like building a house, and once you're just done with the last floor, then it comes down. And nothing made sense. We prayed about it. My husband held me, reassured me, and I had to let him go to work. And when I was left back at home, I could not overcome it. There was no way I would just recollect myself and try to think of what should be the next move. And I remember at that point, I dreaded to see calls from my colleagues, because I think at that point people had known people that were affected by the retrenchment, and I was receiving calls, but I didn't want to pick either of them. I just needed time to reflect, to think through. I had to ask myself very difficult questions, and one of them was like, did I fail anywhere? Why me? Is it because I just joined this department? Is it because I didn't have the experience yet? I was just new in the department. Or it's because I went for maternity leave? I mean, all the questions were just on my head. And I remember at that point, I didn't even want to see my son. I was just feeling like a failure. I was feeling like my self-esteem came down crashing. I know it may not make sense to someone who has never been in these shoes before, but I know for someone who has lost a job, and especially a job that you have treasured, you've worked hard for, I mean, it's a huge loss. It feels like losing a loved one. You grieve for days and days, like I could not stop crying. Through days, weeks, months, and I almost got into depression. I mean, this took a toll on me. This took a toll on so much in my life. There was so much adjustments that had to be done. We had so much changes that had to be done. You know, this is something that you didn't expect. This is something that you had no idea of, you didn't plan for. And you have to come into terms with it. And I remember all through this journey, my husband was there by my side. He used to encourage me day in, day out. Sometimes he thought we had it all figured out, only for him to come back after work and find me broken again. And he never got tired of reassuring me. And I remember when my mom found out about it, I had to step into the shoes of being the encourager to her. I didn't want to show her that I was affected by the layoff. I told her, Mom, I know indeed God is, this didn't catch God by surprise. There's a reason to why it happened. I reassured her because we had just lost our dad less than 2 years. You know, she was trying to heal from that loss. And now I didn't want her to just be burdened again by another issue altogether. So I assured Mom, so she never got to know that I went through phases of deep, deep pain, tears, you know, blame, self-guilt, asking questions that I could not answer. And I just thought about my life, and really I didn't know the way forward. So losing my job didn't just take away what I loved most, but it took me through a sort of a wilderness for some time. And I remember I lost some friends. We were feeling lost and empty for some time. So I made this earnest prayer and told God, help me to heal through this bitterness, through this pain that was too much to even verbalize. Help me to forgive, help me to let go. And I knew that it's true that God gives beauty for ashes. And there was something that was going to be birthed out of it all. And I started being positive towards life. I started doing a search through my heart, through my mind. I was like, just God help me to find myself, help me to figure out life. I was just a young mom. We had just started our family. Like we were less than 2 years in marriage. So we were just at the very foundation of our life. And this storm was too huge. I mean, I had not figured out that within this short time after we just gotten into the marriage institution, we would be faced by such big issues. And as I mentioned, I was still recovering from the loss of my dad. And it was a season. It was a season. And God is gracious enough because He helped me to heal. He helped me to overcome. He helped me to forgive and to let go. He started painting a picture of a new beginning in my life. And I started to think deep, and I realized that in real sense that there could be something else God is calling me to do. And I started opening my life and my mind to the possibilities of what God wanted with my life. And I remember I purposed to just shift my attention and just enjoy motherhood, just take care of my little boy, and have time to bond, have time to pray, have time to, write. I started writing magazines. I started building our businesses from the foundation, because now my husband was still at work, and I was like, I'll just step into the shoes, because we have other businesses that we started at that point. So I stood into the gap and started building them over time, and going through the process of healing and finding myself and finding peace and finding joy. And this whole experience taught me a lesson that God is not only faithful when things have turned out our way. God remains to be faithful forever. He is a faithful God who never fails. He can never be faulted. Yeah? We don't just love God because of what he does to us or what he gives to us. He remains to be God, so we love him for who he is. And I devoted my life like, God, even if anything else was taken away from my life and I only had you, then this is all that matters at this point. And I found joy, I found peace. I collected my pieces together, and life was starting making sense once again. There was hope. I was able to find hope out of that situation. God talks about bringing life even in dry bones, that they can live again. I was very optimistic that it doesn't matter how deep I thought I had sunk back. I knew that was a beginning of another even bigger and better dimension of my life. And God is going to usher me to another dimension of glory. And my life will be a testimony that today I can sit here and share this testimony and talk about it. And sometimes I even talk about it and, laugh at myself. I was feeling like I'm lost. And I think everything turned out for my good, for sure. There's nothing that catches God by surprise. Yeah, I know if he had the ability to ensure that I was not affected and I remained at work, but he's all-knowing. His ways are not like our ways. He sees, you see. And then again, it made more sense to me why God brought in this other opportunity for me shortly before I got the retrenchment letter, because now that was able to take care of us. We were not like struggling like financially because of that one stream of income going away. So you know how God works things. He sees things from afar. At that point, it was not making sense, like, oh, okay. But at this time, when I think about it, I see that God had already seen what was ahead, and he was making another way for me. And I am so grateful that I get to share this testimony with you guys. And I am just speaking to the life of someone that has gone through a job loss, at such a time like this that we are living in, when the cost of living has gone up. There are so many demands from left, right, and center, and you've lost yourself. You're wondering, where do you pick your pieces together? Run to Jesus. He's the only hope. He's the only source of hope. He's the only restorer. He restored my life. He will be able to restore your life as well. So it's my hope and prayer that this story will be a blessing to you, my viewer, and you will be encouraged to know that God is a God of all seasons, and God is faithful through all seasons. Thank you once again for tuning in. God bless you so much. And for now, it's a bye-bye.